Welcome back. This is Module 1, Part 3. In this video, we are going to look at positive economics and normative economics. Economic science is divided into positive economics and normative economics. Positive economics is descriptive, dealing with objective facts and data, while normative economics is prescriptive, involving value judgments and policy recommendations. Both play a crucial role in shaping economic and legal frameworks in India. Positive economics in India. Positive economics focuses on objective analysis and facts without any opinion or judgments. It answers what is rather than what should be. It relies on statistical data, economic models, and empirical research. First, what does positive economics involve? It studies GDP growth and economic output. India's real GDP growth was 7.2% in 22-23, making it one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Real GDP is GDP minus the depreciation. The per capita income in India stood at 1,97,000 rupees or $2,400 in 2023, reflecting improvements in economic output but also disparities in income distribution. Inflation and monetary policy. Positive economic covers inflation and monetary policy. India's Consumer Price Index (CPI) inflation rate was 5.7% in December 2023, impacted by fluctuations in food and fuel prices. The Reserve Bank of India set the repo rate at 6.5% in 2023 to curb inflation and control credit availability. Employment and labor market. So here what we see is, first we see what is actually happening in the economy, what is, and then what action is being taken upon it to improve it. Employment and labor market. India's unemployment rate in urban areas was 6.6% in first quarter of 2023, with youth unemployment exceeding 12%. Over 80% of India's workforce is engaged in the informal sector, highlighting the lack of job security and social benefits. This is what positive economics focuses on, its objectives. Trade and foreign exchange. India's total exports reached $770 billion in 22-23, with software services at $194 billion and petroleum products at $97 billion as major contributors. The rupee depreciated against the US dollar, reaching 83 rupees per US dollar in 2023, affecting import costs and trade balances. As the rupee depreciates, we have to pay more for the imports and thus increasing the trade deficit or trade balance. Government spending and fiscal deficit. India's fiscal deficit for 23-24 was 5.9% of GDP, exceeding the 3% target under the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management (FRBM) Act. Public spending on infrastructure project was 10 lakh crore rupees in the 23-24 budget, aimed at boosting economic growth. Poverty and income distribution. As of 22-23, India had lifted 415 million people out of multidimensional poverty since 2005 and 6. But over 230 million people still live below the poverty line. The top 10% of India's population hold nearly 77% of the total national wealth, indicating rising income inequality. 10% holding 77% of the total national wealth, which is quite staggering. And 230 million people still live below the poverty line. That is almost 23 crore people still live below the poverty line. So, positive economics looks at the actual facts, studies statistical data, relies on statistical data, economic models, and research, empirical research. It does not depend upon opinions or judgments. It just looks at what is. So it looks at the GDP growth rate, it looks at inflation and monetary policies, it looks at employment and labor market, it looks at trade and foreign exchange, government spending and fiscal deficit, poverty and income distribution. So this is the practicality of the positive economics. This is what it sees, and then it recommends corrective action. Let's look at normative economics. Normative economics deals with policy recommendations, value judgments, and what should be scenarios. It suggests economic changes based on ethical, political, and social considerations. Reducing income inequality. India's income inequality has widened, with top 1% earning 22% of national income. A progressive tax system with higher rates on the wealthy has been suggested to address inequality. So, this is the suggestion that higher rates, tax rates, should be imposed on the people who are top earners to address inequality. The introduction of Universal Basic Income (UBI) has been debated as a solution to poverty and economic disparity. Now you see this as a positive economics, and therefore in normative economics comes in, suggesting different ways to address this inequality. Second, should India reduce its fiscal deficits? It's a question mark. Asking, with a fiscal deficit of 5.9% in 23-24, some economists argue that India should reduce borrowing to avoid long-term debt burdens. Others suggest that continued high public spending on infrastructure and welfare is necessary for economic growth, even if it increases the deficit. So here, although India's fiscal deficit has gone to 5.9% of the GDP, but what is the reason for that? It could be that the government is spending on infrastructure and public welfare, and that could be leading to the fiscal deficit of 5.9%. And therefore, there is a suggestion, there is an argument by economists that government should avoid this long-term debt burdens. And some economists, in fact, suggest that even if the deficit is high, it doesn't matter if it is for public welfare and if it is for increasing the infrastructure. So these are all suggestions. Agricultural reforms and farmer welfare. The repealed farm laws of 2020 were designed to liberalize agriculture, but the farmer protests led to their withdrawal. A key normative debate is whether India should reintroduce market reforms in a way that balances farmers' concerns with economic efficiency. Doubling farmers' income by 2025 remains a government target, but policies like minimum support prices (MSP) and direct cash transfer (DCT) are debated for their long-term sustainability. Privatization of public sector enterprises. India has privatized several public sector undertakings (PSUs), including Air India, to improve efficiency. Normative economists debate whether strategic sectors like railways, banking, and oil should also be privatized, balancing efficiency gains with employment concerns. Environmental policies and climate change. India is committed to achieve net zero carbon emission by 2070. Normative economists argue whether this target should be accelerated to 2050 like many developed nations. Policies such as carbon taxes and incentives for electric vehicles are debated as solution to pollution and climate change. Reservation policies and social equity. India has 49.5% reservation in education and jobs for SCs, STs and OBCs. There is an ongoing debate on whether reservation should be extended based on economic criteria instead of caste. The 10% quota for economically weaker sections (EWS) introduced in 2019 is an example of shifting towards economic based affirmative action. So now from this we understand the practical applicability of both positive economics and normative economics, how they both work together for uplifting the economy. Conclusion. Positive economics provides factual insights into India's economy such as GDP growth, inflation, trade data, and employment rates. Normative economics, on the other hand, drives discussions on policy recommendations, policy changes such as taxation, labor laws, and environmental regulations. Both aspects are essential in shaping India's economic policies and legal frameworks, ensuring sustainable growth while addressing social challenges. Thank you very much for listening. Do consider subscribing and sharing the link with your friends in your college group. Take care. Bye bye.